Okay, what the hell? I want a flying dog. What the fuck? What? Okay, technically, Hayataro is a lion dog, but he can turn into like an airplane, I guess, and fly? What the fuck? I want a flying dog. Hi, I'm Nikki, and welcome to another episode of the Samurai 8 cast. We have some things to talk about, but first, I forgot to talk about Nanashi's name. I know that obviously this is a very number-centric manga, and that there is a lot of number symbolism. I forgot. I have no excuse. The only excuse I have is that Nanashi didn't know if that was their proper name, so I didn't really take the chance to actually break it down and think about it. But we'll do that. But before we get to talking about Nanashi, we're obviously going to go through what we're going to do this episode. First, I am going to talk about Nanashi because that should have been in one of the last two episodes. I completely fucked up there. I'm very sorry about that. So before we talk about Nanashi's name, let's just talk about what's going to happen at all during this entire episode. First, I will go over a quick summary of what has happened in the last 3 chapters that has been kind of key to what's been building up for this chapter, which is chapter 4. Then I'm going to go through a chapter retelling, which there's only 19 pages. I don't expect that to be very long. I said that last time too, and then I think it took me still about 20 minutes to get through it, but there's only so much. I can only talk so fast, people. I have so many things to say, but my brain doesn't move fast enough for my mouth sometimes. So anyway, then we're going to go over some discussion points. We're going to go over some characters and how they have changed. We have a few themes that actually appeared throughout this chapter that may permeate into other chapters and have permeated from other chapters. We have some discussion points. Most of these are just about future plot devices that we will see throughout the series that have been set up in this chapter. This is pretty much an exposition chapter with some slight reveal. Nothing too serious really happens this chapter. And then I'm going to go through some predictions. So, we should probably get started. I can't believe I forgot to talk about Nanashi's name. This was completely my fault. I didn't think to discuss it mostly because Nanashi indicated that that wasn't really their name. They only are called Nanashi. It means nameless. So I don't even expect this to stick as Nanashi's name unless Nanashi pulls some sort of tropey thing where like they have turned this name into a meaning for them. In which nameless is just such a I don't know how you could really change that to be like something that's important to you. You could say like, oh, like Deku from My Hero Academia. Deku it's kind of pretty much means blockhead or something to that similarity, and that's why Bakugo was calling him Deku, was to make fun of him, and then Deku decided that should be his hero name because the word Deku sounds similar to a word that means something positive, and that's why he decided that that would be his name, because of how it could be something positive, and he's taking this name that he was like berated over and that he was made fun over from his childhood into something that actually like could mean something. So it kind of takes the Nimrod approach, where Nimrod was a skilled hunter, but Bugs Bunny then used Nimrod as a way to make fun of Elmer Fudd and say he's a real Nimrod, like sarcastically indicating that Elmer Fudd was a skilled hunter when he wasn't. And then people didn't actually know who Nimrod was, so they just thought Nimrod was just a term for an idiot. So now people call each other Nimrod because they think that's a word for idiot. So it's just some sort of like reverse, backwards trope of taking a word that means something bad and making it into something good. I I don't know if Nanashi's name really could even turn into a point like that. I honestly think that it might turn into something else. I have a prediction for that. So let's just go into the meaning of it. So obviously, this is a series about numbers. Hachimaru, Hachi means 8. So we obviously need to find the others who have number names because, as I stated in the first episode, Fudomiyo had the 8 youths who would protect him and walk through life and everything with him. And he is depicted with these 8 youths a lot, which is why I think Hachimaru is number 8, because this is an indication of the 8 youths, and that we're going to find 8 youths who are the keys to Pandora's box that will protect this universe, because this is the box that Fudomiyo used to save the universe once upon a time ago. So, obviously we're looking for people with numbered names. Nana means 7, so Nanashi's name is indicative of the 7. But Nana is one of the 2 words used for the number 7 in Japanese. The other is shichi. From what I understand through some research I did, it was very basic research, is that most people use Nana when they are talking, and for pretty much all conversations. Shichi is usually used when you're counting up from 1, I guess, or maybe down from 10. But it's not really used in any other context, and this is mainly because it sounds like shi, which for one thing is 4. It sounds like ichi, which is 1. It sounds like hachi, which is 8. But also shi means death. So the Japanese are pretty superstitious. So using a word like shichi to indicate number 7 is a bad omen. And a lot of people say, don't give gifts in 4 or 9s because that's indicative of bad luck. Obviously, when giving this character a name, it might be a little foreboding. If Nanashi's name was Shichi and then Nanashi died, or indicating that Nanashi would die. But it looks like you have to die. It seems like you have to die to become a samurai, to get your cyborg body. So I don't really see why that would have been too much of a problem. But Nanashi obviously means nameless, and there's more of a reason to that than, just the numbering scheme. So obviously there was some motivation behind the name itself for 2 reasons. So obviously Nanashi's name, because Nana is 7, indicates that Nanashi will be one of the keys to Pandora's box, so we're definitely going to see Nanashi in the future. But also it has a weird indication. I don't know if we are going to be going down now, and we're going to find the person who has Roku in their name next, which means 6, or if we met Nanashi early, and now we're going to find Ichi first, which is number 1. And the fact that we need 7 keys to open the box, but there's 8 important characters based on Hachimaru's name and this number symbolism that's immediately apparent, I'm not sure where Hachimaru's role is going to be. I'm not sure if the people that Hachimaru is going to meet are like the keys, and he is then the one who's going to open it and be the person who opens the box, and then be the symbol for Fudomiyo and be the shooting star and everything. And he is not a key, but he is the 8th person, so indicative of the 8 youths, but his role is not to be an actual key, but the person who opens the key, even though that seems to have been placed onto Daruma by his master. We're not entirely sure, but honestly, with Nanashi, I think we'll have to see, based on the naming scheme, who comes next and what's going to happen next. But Nanashi, I'm not sure if it's even going to change their name, or if they do, they might keep Nana in it. It might become some other name that has Nana in it, or it might even have Shichi in it, which is indicative of death, and then maybe that would be foretelling that Nanashi might actually die as a cyborg, which would be very sad, I think, and I hope that doesn't happen. So maybe Kishimoto didn't want to give us that impression that Nanashi is going to die in the future and is actually a very permanent character based on choosing to use Nanashi over Shichi. But I guess you could also say that Nanashi ending with Shi could be indicative of 4, which is death, but I don't think the Japanese language works like that. I'm not someone who speaks Japanese, but that doesn't seem entirely correct to me. I'm not entirely sure, though. I'm not an expert in how this language is spoken. I could easily try to criticize the Japanese language for having 3 numbers that sound almost completely the same, being Shichi, Ichi, and Hachi, but also Eastern languages process numbers in a quicker manner, which allows people who speak Eastern languages to do math more quickly than people in Western languages. And that's just because our language design and the product of our languages is completely different. So I don't really know if Nanashi's name was built with the she in mind to be shown of death, but every character who's going to become a cyborg dies. So I guess the real question is how permanent will that death be? Is the death to become a cyborg their only death? Or is there another death waiting for them? It shows that, you can kill each other, as Hachimaru killed that Ronin in the first chapter with no qualms whatsoever, it looks like. He seems to have no conscious turmoil over doing that. So I guess we're going to just have to see what happens with these characters and what happens in general, and how Nanashi's name is built. We're not entirely sure. We're going to just have to watch the series and see where Nanashi ends up falling. So now for some quick past chapter summaries. This chapter is about the dad a lot, as we talked about it last chapter. Some things we just have to remember about the dad is that the dad kept a samurai key inside of Hachimaru where his heart was. He inserted one into Hachimaru's heart to make sure that he was still alive, because he was born a very fragile and dying baby. We also know that he made a mobile suit for Hachimaru, or he was in the process of making a mobile suit for Hachimaru, and that was to be powered by a samurai key. And that indicates that he has some sort of knowledge about samurai keys and their abilities. If he is able to repurpose them to keep a heart beating, or if he can repurpose them to make a mobile suit function properly. And in chapter 3, the dad was confronted by Daruma for having this crimson blade, which, as Daruma stated at the end of chapter 3, this is not some sort of regular samurai soul blade. This is not a typical one. This is a very rare blade that you need to have, and specific knowledge of samurai to be able to properly obtain this blade and use it. And I think that's the key information that we need to know about previous chapters to fully understand this chapter, because the dad is a pretty important character during this chapter. And so now I'm just going to tell you what happened in this chapter. Obviously, you can skip ahead if you don't want to hear me talk about the chapter, or you can listen in case you don't have access to the Viz chapters. At this moment, all 4 chapters are free. They're the official translations. I only use the official translations. You should support the official translations, all that normal stuff. Let's get going. This is chapter 4. It's called Family Argument. And I love how Kishimoto does manga, because Kishimoto does these sort of chapter covers. Obviously, the art is by Akira Okubo, so this just means that he does the chapter artwork, but because he was an assistant for Kishimoto since the early 2000s, the style permeates, and even if it has something to do with the actual chapter, it's so nice. It's refreshing to just get to see a nice little cover. I feel like some manga artists sort of skip out on this because of deadlines and stuff, and it's completely understandable, but it's just nice to see how covers look, and it's just nice to see them because it gives you another side of characters, and also they're just nice to look at. They're really good backgrounds sometimes. And in this chapter cover, we have Hachimaru flying on Hayataro above what seems to be the landscape. There is some rock formations that have vegetation around them. It looks to be that there's some wires and telephone poles around. Telephone poles, I say very loosely. There's some water, and they're flying up into the clouds. And this is obviously a chapter cover that just goes straight into what the actual story is about, because then you see that they're breaking through the clouds up into the atmosphere, and Hachimaru is cheering and stating that he loves flying through the sky, he loves the feeling of the wind, and he's asking Hayataro if they can go into outer space, and Hayataro's response indicates that they cannot yet. And Hachimaru says that makes sense, and then asks Hayataro to take them straight home. And you can see that they're flying through the sky like an airplane, and you have a glimpse of someone who is outside just looking up into the sky and sees that they even seem to have a tail following them like jets have when they fly through the sky. And Hachimaru wonders if they look like a shooting star, but Hayotaro answers back with a meow, which Hachimaru interprets that, oh right, shooting stars only show up at night. So this just shows another indication that Hachimaru seems to relate to shooting stars a lot and seems to really like the aspects and the feeling and the looks of shooting stars. So we cut to Hachimaru's house, where the father and Daruma are still having this conversation, where Daruma has the crimson blade pointed at the father. And the father states, "So you have the blade. No wonder I couldn't find it. If you understand the weight of that weapon, then you are no ordinary samurai either. And you have a handle bone that is worthy of it." And the handle bone is shown to be in Daruma's grasp. Daruma demands answers from the dad. He wants to know who he is. He wants to know who Hachimaru is. And the dad is just avoiding this. He states, "Wouldn't a samurai steeped in the proper ways introduce himself first?" And so Daruma pauses and then opens up his insides to show his key, which is his spine, so to speak. But the inner box, which is the key, which is also, I guess, their brain and stuff, actually opens up and brings up a sort of cylindrical item that has an insignia on it. And Daruma states, "I am an initiate of the Kongo Yasha school. My name is Daruma. That is my true identity." And the dad says, "That sigil of your order attached to your key, is that authentic?" And Daruma confirms it is. And the dad states that, "Then you are the lone wolf of Yasha, the man astride the evil biting holder, the legendary samurai who cut down 1,000, the Daruma?" And you can see in this panel, while he's talking, a picture of Daruma when he was the wandering lone wolf. And it has him with some samurai armor floating around him, a handle bone even in his possession that has his own blade. It's not the crimson blade, it's not colored in the same way. And it also has some dots going up the straight edge of the blade. So it's obviously a different blade that he had while in this samurai body. And the holder that he had, which is the evil biting holder, which is also a lion dog as we know, this holder looks a little different than Hayotaro. So obviously Hachimaru and the wandering lone wolf are two different people. They have different abilities and different blades, but there's a lot of similarities between them. And the dad is just very he's almost disappointed, and he's just in that body. And Daruma obviously is in a cat cyborg body. And Daruma states he is used to that reaction, sadly, and he indicates that the dad does know a few things about samurai, and that it answered that question, at least for him. And the dad's just ignoring anything that Daruma is trying to indicate towards him that he might know anything. And so the dad says, why would a samurai of your stature be here on this planet in that form? And Daruma states, "I am a poor liar. I always let the cat out of the bag. I will be honest. If nothing is done, the planets of this system will be obliterated in the near future. And the means of stopping this are sealed within a box protected by 7 locks. The keys that will open the box are samurai keys, and very special ones in particular. I am traveling the galaxy searching for the box and the keys. For 50 years, I have searched and found nothing at all, until now." And the father realizes that they're talking about Hachimaru, and that one of the keys is Hachimaru. And Daruma says, "Yep, that's right." And the dad states, "Absolutely not. I will not allow Hachimaru to leave." And Daruma states, "Nothing I just explained seemed to surprise you. Do you know more than you're letting on?" And the dad just, he's trying to dismiss Daruma. He states, "I have nothing to say to you, and I'm not letting you have Hachimaru. He needs to be protected." And Daruma tries to push back on this by saying his powerful gravity pulled me right to him, and that it was the guidance of Fudo Mio. Hachimaru is now a samurai, whose purpose is saving the galaxy. So it seems to be that this righteous calling, what Daruma believes it is, because the righteous calling is a very important part of a samurai, Daruma seems to think that the righteous calling is for Hachimaru to save the galaxy. And The panel actually shows them talking in front of the life support machine, and Daruma states, "Why don't you show more faith in him? There's no need for his shackles anymore." And the dad is trying to argue back. He says, "And what would you know? The boy is only," and while he's stating that, Hachimaru comes home flying down, and the dad states that he's done talking to Daruma and immediately scolds Hachimaru for taking too long. And Hachimaru states, "Guess what? Hayataro can turn into an airplane, so of course I wanted to see how far we could fly." And the dad states, "I only told you to go for a walk." And Hachimaru is just too excited. He states, "Ask me what just happened. I made a weird friend." And everyone's just like, okay. Everyone's sort of just not, they don't know what to say to that. Probably because the mood just entirely shifted. And they are still a little affected by this argument they were having. And Hachimaru asks if he can go out for a bit, not just for a walk. He wants to go the other way. And the dad states, "No, you just got back home." And they immediately start to argue in that Hachimaru is saying that he's never been able to go outside before, and he's not a skinny toothpick anymore, he's a samurai. And the dad states that there's all kind of dangers outside and that he was nearly murdered. Hachimaru says that he went to save him then, so he should be more than capable. And while they're arguing, Hachimaru is just like, I get it now. The reason you never completed that mobile life support device after years and years is because you were never going to make it in the first place. There was nothing holding you back from doing it. Do you really not understand how I feel at all?" And everyone is just kind of like, "Oh, that's harsh. Oof, 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 oof." Hachimaru states in the silence, "Just one time. Have you ever thought that you could die happy if you got to fly in the sky just one time?" And the dad has not much to say to this. He stands up and states, "The point is, you're only allowed to walk in the area around the house. As for you, Daruma, I want you gone." Hachimaru turns to Daruma for some support and asks him to stick up for me, but Daruma is sleeping. You can even see the sleeping bubble out of his nose, and that he's just taking a nap. He just decided to take a nap during this entire exchange. The dad goes into his room, and you can see that's cluttered with many things. It has tons of screens and monitors, wires, lots of tools. I don't know if I can even see a bed. It might indicate that he sleeps on a couch in this room, but he flashes back to thinking of when on sort of a screen, it kind of looks like an iPad, but looks a little more primitive than that. Hachimaru is strapped up to the life support system and watching someone fly through the sky. And the dad sits down next to him and asks him, "Do you want to take a ride on that?" And Hachimaru is immediately embarrassed and states, "What? No way. I don't want to ride that at all. That looks like a plane for losers. I like playing games. I'm not some little kid that would be excited about a plane ride. I wouldn't do it even if you paid me." That's just like, "Oh, I didn't know." And Hachimaru's like, "Well, now you do." And despite this, he keeps watching the video of the person flying. And it cuts to then the dad working on this mobile life support suit and working on it probably into the late hours of the night. And there's lots of tools and lots of sounds going on. And then it seems to be someone from a screen looking at the viewer and states, "One day I will track you down." And the dad is immediately pulled out of this flashback by this memory. And he just asks himself what he should do. And Hachimaru is actually holding Daruma's sleeping form, which is just a Daruma, which is a large, round, circular form, while he's sleeping. And he says, "Man, I think I might have gone too far again. No, it was definitely Dad's fault again for sure, I think. But I get why he would be worried. It's also sudden." But he just sighs and says, "Would he be less worried if I was stronger?" And Daruma wakes up and takes the model sword and states, "A samurai is one who decides everything for himself." And Hachimaru's like, "Oh, well, you were awake?" And Daruma jumps off the deck of the house onto the ground and states, "Give me your favorite number, Hachimaru." And Hachimaru tells him, well, Hachi's in his name, so he guesses it's 8. And Daruma slices the air with his sword, and he counts to 7. And when he hits 8, a slash cuts into the ground right in front of Hachimaru. And Hachimaru asks on a time delay, you swung your sword and the slice didn't happen for exactly 8 seconds. And he asks how. And Daruma states that is the silent slash, a Kongo Yasha skill in which you decide how much time passes between drawing the blade and its eventual cut. I'll repeat myself. A samurai is one who decides everything for himself. I will leave this place soon. If you cross over that cut in the ground, I will teach you all the ways of the Kongo Yasha style, but if you stay on that side, live with your father in peace. And a moment happens where they pause, but then Hachimaru immediately crosses it, and he says something very funny in which he says, "Oh, come on, your character profile's already been updated to include being my master. Isn't that right, Master Daruma?" And that's the end of that chapter. So first I want to discuss 2 characters. Hachimaru seems to be falling in line exactly with how he is. He's reflective whenever he has fights with someone. He is excited. He is everything that a regular shonen protagonist is. Nothing wrong with that. So we don't really have much to discuss about him. He obviously always wanted to be a samurai. He's never going to turn down the opportunity to be a samurai. There was no doubt in my mind that he was going to choose to go with Daruma. So I do want to talk about Daruma though. The only things we really gathered, obviously we know that Daruma was the wandering lone wolf. And apparently samurai keys have specific insignias on them, or they can. They don't have to, but his insignia is indicative of the Kongo Yasha style and that he is a Yasha initiate. I don't know if these get inscribed throughout your lifetime naturally, or if you have to put them on yourself, or if by learning a style they happen, but we're going to learn that over time. Also, we learned that Daruma has been searching the galaxy for over 50 years for someone. So, whereas I thought that this may have been a few years that he was searching for someone, that exchange that we saw right at the beginning of the first chapter with Daruma and his master happened about 50 years ago. And his master has been protecting the planet for 50 years at least, or not even the planet, the entire galaxy for 50 years. So he's been searching for this, and this makes me wonder, how much time do we really have for the galaxy, and how much time do we have for the galaxy to actually implode? But we're going to talk about the end of the entire galaxy a little later in the episode. The second thing I just want to talk about is the dad. I really like the dad. I keep saying this over and over. I like that he's kind of an asshole. He's protective, he's secretive. There's a lot of things about him that have led him and Hachimaru to live the life that they have. There's obviously an antagonist that's tied to the dad, and I definitely want to talk about that later on as well. But with the dad, it seems that obviously, I've said this before, he really does love Hachimaru and does everything he can for him and tries to connect to Hachimaru. And he went out of his way to get that locker ball, to get the samurai soul to put in the mobile suit. For Hachimaru to say these sort of things, he's obviously naive to his father's love for him and his dedication to him. Because of the samurai we saw in this flashback, it seems very obviously understandable now why he wants to protect Hachimaru, because it seems like that he ran away to hide from the samurai. He even asked Daruma why he would be on this planet, indicating that this is such a small, normal planet. There's nothing of interest here, and that might be why he's there. He might be there to hide, because it is the most inconspicuous place to be. If someone who is maybe this crazy thief, who might even be a samurai, but isn't because we've seen aging throughout the flashbacks, but someone who has the skill level to take samurai souls and use them, this person, why would he be on a planet where nothing happens? Why would he be on a planet to not use his skills to his fullest ability? And it's to protect Hachimaru. So I definitely want to see a little bit more what's going to happen here, but that all depends on whether or not Hachimaru leaves the dad behind without even saying goodbye. And it also depends on whether or not they do get a resolution, or if this is just going to continue as a hanging plot point until further notice. We're going to have to see about that. But obviously the dad definitely knows more about samurai than he lets on. He knows about their technology more than he lets on. He's been integrated enough into samurai culture that he knows how you should actually be approaching each other and talking to each other. So this is all just a lot. This is a lot of information that the dad knows a lot more than he lets on. He's been protecting Hachimaru from it, maybe because he wronged Samurai. And if Hachimaru learns that his dad wronged Samurai, then Hachimaru might not want anything to do with his dad. But his dad obviously had very good reasons for it. He's a very, it seems to be morally gray character, or at least gray character in the sense that we are not sure why he's doing everything. And we're not even entirely sure what happened in his past enough to make judgments on his character's morality, especially based on the fact that he went to outlaws to buy the locker ball from them. He's not afraid to deal with criminals, and he even came packed with a loaded gun to deal with criminals, so we're going to have to just see how the father develops over time and see where he goes as a person. Next, I want to talk about the themes that we saw within this chapter. We saw the number 8 that has reappeared again, but that's only because Hachimaru stated that that was his favorite number because his name has Hachi in it. Nothing has really changed in spite of that. It's a lucky number. He chose his favorite number for Daruma to show something. There wasn't any indication of numbers throughout the chapter from what I could tell. So I don't think we really have to worry about that. Hachimaru said years and years. It might be 8 years that he's been working on the mobile suit, but we're not entirely sure. Wind is actually becoming a theme within this series. We saw Hachimaru flying through the sky in multiple chapters now. He really enjoys it. It seems that he's always wanted to fly, and he's had this dream of flying for a long time. This is indicative of his wanting to be free and his desire of freedom. He loves the feeling of wind. He even stated that he could die happy because he was in the air and he was flying around in it. This ties in well to Daruma's fighting style, which is the Kongo Yasha style, and when we saw him use it in the first chapter, it was a wind style. So this intertwines well with Hachimaru, who loves the feeling of the wind and seems to have a wind affinity. Kishimoto also seems to be really into wind affinities and air affinities. So I definitely think this is just a stylistic choice of Kishimoto's, having characters who control wind and use wind very well. I think Hachimaru kind of relates to wind and the air and the open sky and everything because it's in his mind, it's the ultimate freedom. You can go wherever you want to go. You don't have to be trapped and bound to anything when you're in the air. And it's all under your control. I think that's what he's finally gotten it, and he's been wanting it for such a long time. And now that he can have it, he wants to do it, and he's going to take every opportunity to get these sort of wind affinity and freedom aspects that he's been missing. And this also ties into the shooting star theme. Hachimaru once again asked if he looks like a shooting star to Hayataro when they were flying through the sky. We knew shooting stars were going to be a theme. It was even in the preview 3 pages where Hachimaru wished upon shooting stars. But we also know that shooting stars and the indication of shooting stars has to do with Fudo Mio in this series. And I know I joked about it last time, but maybe Hachimaru is a descendant of Fudo. Or maybe he's meant to be some sort of god that walks alongside Fudo in the end of this whole series. Obviously, I'm just predicting here based on it, but he keeps comparing even himself to being the shooting star of the galaxy like Fudo Mio. But he doesn't even know that Daruma is trying to get these 7 keys for Pandora's box and to save the galaxy just as Fudo Mio had done and did under the guise and theme and naming of the shooting star. So obviously we know that Hachimaru is going to save the entire galaxy by the end of this. We don't know how. Hachimaru has no idea that the galaxy is in such peril that it needs a new shooting star. He's just calling himself the shooting star for fun. And because he believes that, because he's just been so lucky and he wished on a shooting star. But this might even be that he's going to start being compared to Fudo Mio and Fudo Mio's abilities and powers and impact as he starts to go around the galaxy and go to different planets, because the galaxy is fucking huge. The galaxy is so huge. I don't even know how many planets we're even going to come into contact with throughout this entire series, because I thought it was just going to be the solar system. which is just a strict number of planets within a galaxy that surround a star. But in this, we have what seems to be the entire galaxy, which is thousands upon maybe even millions of solar systems. So we have so many options, and we have so many opportunities to see what this world is like, and I'm really glad Kishimoto is providing us this opportunity. And finally, we're going to go into some discussion. We're not going to go into way too much stuff here, because everything here is just some exposition. Obviously, I just want to talk about the Wandering Lone Wolf, and the handle bone is the handle for the sword that you can control the Crimson Blade with. And obviously that's indicative of very powerful swords. The Wandering Lone Wolf, in the one panel that we saw with him holding his sword when he was in this human cyborg form, was also holding a handle bone. So it seems that Daruma also has a very powerful sword that he can use with his soul. And a few other things that I want to talk about with the Wandering Lone Wolf is apparently Daruma cut down 1,000. I don't know what that means. It could be 1,000 samurai, it could be 1,000 people, 1,000 planets, 1,000 stars. We're not entirely sure. But it seems that he's very powerful. He's very well known throughout the galaxy, probably, that he did these powerful things. And it was enough that, and even though he's been searching for these keys for 50 years, we don't know how many years he's actually been wandering around doing the samurai shit that he's been doing. He could be 500 years old, and these last 50 years might just have been him searching for these keys, whereas he cut down 1,000 and he was, having his holder bite evil and do all this insane stuff in other planets, and it just eventually reached this backwater planet where nothing is going on ever. Excited to see where we're going to go and how much we're going to learn about Daruma's past. I want to talk about the end of the galaxy. Like I said, the galaxy's huge. There's so many different possibilities and opportunities. But the fact that Daruma's master has been holding everything together, I guess, for 50 years, that's a long time. That's a very long time. She must be fucking powerful. And kudos to her. She's been holding out for a very long time. And I think maybe Daruma is stating that time is of the essence here, that we need to do this as soon as possible. But I don't know if he's stating that because he believes his master is going to give out soon, or he knows his master is going to give out soon, or he knows there's an actual specific time limit here. Because he says soon the galaxy is just going to get destroyed. Armageddon is coming with the galaxy itself, and he knows that his master is trying her best to stop this. So I don't know if this is care for his master, that he is trying to speed this up and find people as soon as possible and tell the dad that he needs to go and he needs to take Hachimaru and he needs to save the planet, or if this is actually a time limit that he's on, and maybe he only has 10 more years, or maybe he only has 5 more years, or maybe he only has 1 year left, because it might have been 51 years that it was. But we didn't really know. We didn't see that or any indication of that. And I'm sure we're going to learn this as soon as Hachimaru learns that there is a Pandora's box that needs to be opened. But until then, we can only assume that there's a time limit here. But seeing how much Daruma cares for his master, I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up being that Daruma's just trying to preserve his master so he can see her and so that they can continue being samurai and live their life, without this oppressive force coming down on them. The last thing I want to discuss, other than my predictions for the new chapter, is the samurai in the dad's flashback. We didn't see, it's obviously a samurai. Based on we only see a face, but the 2 eyes are different. How the mouth is formed has that indicative cut around the jawline and around the teeth area that all the samurai seem to be having. They need to open up around their mouths and around where their face and ears meet. Those cuts seem to be there. There even seems to be indents of maybe holes. This is obviously a very powerful samurai. We know that samurai can transfer bodies because Daruma's in a different form. So maybe this was someone's transferred form, or maybe this is someone's form. But whoever this is clearly evil, or at least clearly an antagonist, in that the dad has obviously harmed this person. The dad probably took the Crimson Blade from this person, or he took something else from this person. And fled to this small little planet that has nothing to do with anything, that a person who is a notorious samurai or who has any sort of like high level skill set would not even dare dream of going to. So this is definitely a major antagonist coming up. I'm not sure how the antagonist is going to show up. Hachimaru has a gravity that pulls people towards him, so that might actually result in this antagonist showing up because they feel Hachimaru's gravity and pull of bringing people in. Or it might be because he hears that his dad was attacked and his dad was finally found by this samurai who is out for vengeance against the dad. And this could mean that the dad dies and it fuels Hachimaru as a motivation. Or the dad might be narrowly saved by Hachimaru, and then Hachimaru and the dad have to reconcile that whatever happened that caused this samurai to go after him happened, and they're going to have to talk about it. So either way, we have that point of contention and obviously conflict of the dad's resentment towards samurai and his want to protect Hachimaru from these samurai because he continues to harm samurai, it seems like. And Hachimaru now being a samurai and was obviously going to defend samurai, so this is going to be an interesting point that's going to happen later on in the series. So I'm excited to see how this antagonist shows up, what this antagonist is going to do, and I'm excited to see how this antagonist and their presence and what we're going to get revealed out of it is going to affect the dad and Hachimaru's relationship. Now I'm just going to go through a few predictions. These are pretty obvious, I think. As I just said, the antagonist I don't think is going to show up for a while. I don't think we're going to see him for at least maybe 100 chapters, 50 chapters maybe, but at least 100 if I really had to give a good number. And I think it's going to cause a lot of conflict, but also resolution within Hachimaru's family, with his dad and with himself, and maybe even with Daruma. This might shed some more light on who his father is, because it seems like Hachimaru has an issue with his father not understanding him, but it seems more like Hachimaru doesn't truly understand his father, and this might give him some perspective on that. And the more obvious and immediate prediction is obviously Hachimaru is going to learn the Kongoyasha wind style, which fits with his wind theme and his freedom theme and his style of just how he is. He seems to be turning into a very free-spirited, fun person who just wants to go and explore and be with the flow of things, but also wants to save people. We're going to get to see Hachimaru learn this wind style theme, which is very exciting, and I can't wait to see how this forms and how he's going to end up learning it and how he's going to end up making it his own, because that was the theme in Naruto, and I'm sure that Kishimoto is just going to have Hachimaru learn it on his own way and with his own terms, and it's going to develop into its own significant different style. Well, that's the episode. Thank you for listening. I didn't mean to talk about Nanashi as much as I did, but I have a lot to say about Nanashi. Obviously, becoming one of my favorite characters, even though we won't see them for who knows how long. But I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Remember to like and subscribe. Tell your friends. You can follow the Twitter. It's linked in the description. If you have anything you want to say to me, maybe any invitations to fight in a fast food parking lot, or comments, questions, concerns, anything else, you can email me at samurai8cast@gmail.com. That's also linked in the description. Until then, can't wait to see you next week. Support the official translation. Keep on hacking and slashing. Be a cyborg. Don't yell at your fathers unless they deserve it. Until then, I'll see you later. Goodbye.